In a corrupt fantasy world, you're a force to be reckoned with. Resurrected as the new Overlord, you seek vengeance and conquest. The actions you take or don't take will change you and those around you, to give in to corruption or to resist. In this third-person action role-playing game, your path of destruction will send you across the realm, discovering how you came to be with the help of your gleefully malicious minions. A whimsical world filled with dark humor and satirical takes on fantasy awaits. Will you, dear Overlord, be a force for evil, or very evil? Hello there, my name is Red and welcome to Have You Played It, a series taking a look at a game you may or may not have played. So out of nostalgia or curiosity, let me show you Overlord. From the very beginning, you are reliably informed by the opening titles this game is not going to take itself too seriously. The minions run and scamper with evil delight and cheer. But on with a new game and we get a very quick opening cutscene.
Here, this one.
It's him. Rub some acid in his eyes. That'll refresh him. Come here. Master, evilness truly suits you. Let us go forth. There are nefarious deeds to be done. I feel the land quaking with fear already.
With some refreshing acid rubbed in our eyes, outfitted and ready to rule, we start just outside a sarcophagus we've been slumbering in for some time. Your outfit is one that would rightfully get you called Sauron at any convention. You may have already noticed, but there are some inconsistencies between the opening cutscene and the actual game. For one, your eyes are blue to begin with, not red, and Gnarl, your nefarious minion master, is clearly missing an eye in the cutscene, but not in-game. You are awakened in the spawning pit of your evil tower, a place where your minions reside. Without much fanfare, we're quickly thrusted into tutorial mode. Your available minions can be summoned from these pits. The little scamps will follow you around unless otherwise directed. The name Minion has been somewhat ruined by these yellow jerks, but here they are your nefarious little workforce. You promptly have the choice to head straight upstairs and start the game, or go for the combat tutorial. A nice touch for those replaying the game. In this tutorial area, we beat the crap out of this wisecracking Jester minion. The default controls for mouse and keyboard are rather unique. Spacebar swings your weapon, shift to lock on, left click sends out a minion, right click recalls one minion, hold to recall all, but the most unique gameplay mechanic for Overlord is when you hold left and right click. Moving your mouse, you control your swarm of evil fellas, sweeping them around. We'll see much more of this later. For now, we beat the jests out of the Jester and head to the throne room. It's where you end up if you skip this tutorial. Your dark tower was destroyed and ransacked by the 7 heroes once your predecessor was vanquished. It's up to you to rebuild it to its former glory. Your tower's power source, the Heartstone, is missing, but your portal has just enough energy to send you to its last known location. Handy that. Heading through, your sinister sensations are assaulted by the sarcastically over-idyllic countryside of this area.
This tranquil wilderness, so rural and idyllic. Hideous, is it not? Try not to inhale it, my lord.
Chittering birds, chatty animals, and lush green grass. Blech, so wholesome. At the moment, we can only summon browns. These are general purpose minions. 3 more types become available later as indicated by the existence of these arcane minion pits. You're currently limited to 5 minions in total. 'Tis no army, but evil will find a way. Certain creatures will drop life essence. If moved over them, your minions will pick them up and carry them back to you, adorably proffering them to you, their master. Each life essence collected adds to your total pool, giving you plenty of backup minions to call upon should some fall. You can see here down below is an item we can't reach yet, the game letting you know early some things are unreachable until later, either with level progression or lack of correct minions. It's a great use of sightlines, something Overlord will do often, having you run up against obstacles you can't quite defeat yet. And speaking of obstacles, we've got our first one. Obstructions like this require a minimum amount of minions to overcome. In this case, 5 minions are required to move this pillar. Ahead is Farmer Bob. He's tied up to act as a scarecrow by the halflings now occupying occupying his farm. He also decries how the pumpkins have been plotting against him at night. It's unclear if this is true by fantasy whimsy or the ramblings of an unstable man cooked by the sun. Send your minions on a path of destruction, ending with the destruction of the farmhouse to root out the halfling. Striking him down, Farmer Bob thanks you. Side note, I love how the minions are just there in cutscenes, being fun little guys. It makes me smile every time. Ahead is a thin crossing, impassable to your evil magnificence, but your minions can traverse it easily. Along with life essence, minions can pick up weapons, both practical like swords and iron helmets, or less so like these pumpkin helmets. But who can stay mad at the little fellas? They're having so much nefarious fun. Weapons and armor increase their combat strength, as indicated by this pop-up when they claim their ill-gotten goods, and in the tab menu here. Ahead are 3 stereotypically sleepy halflings. Laying about them with axe and minion, their defeated forms ooze black smoke. Gnarl informs you its evil energy. It gathers in all evil creatures like us. Intriguing to be coming from stereotypically good creatures like halflings. But no time to question, for alas, ahead is the Tower Heart. Show more pumpkins your might and your minions will carry the Tower Heart for you. The true power of evil that is managerial delegation. Just beyond, the minions find a shortcut back. With a swing, the wall falls to create a bridge, another mechanic of traversal you'll find in levels. With the Tower Heart returned, Gnarl will now stay behind in the tower. The heart allows him to communicate and see what you're up to whilst out committing your evil deeds. You are an anti-hero silent protagonist, so communication is understandably one way. The heart also contained the knowledge of one spell, Fireball. We'll see that later, and a totem to increase our minion capacity to 10. The Jester now follows you around in your tower annoyingly close. He can block your path too, his irritating presence very much encouraging you to take a swing. Or 3. Our tower crane was pillaged. Gnarl wants it returned to rebuild, so we head back to the Halfling domain. Levels in Overlord are interconnected, relatively linear open world areas. You'll bounce back and forth often from your dark tower to levels. Questing further into Mellow Hills, we come across the town of Spree, currently locked up tight. The rather poorly animated locals call out to you.
Halflings approaching, get ready!
Hang on, those ain't Halflings. Look at the one with the helmet.
Could be 2 halflings holding up some armour. Yeah, I bet that's it.
Here, prove you ain't Halflings and free our men from the camps down the road.
If you are, stay right there so I can get my aim straight.
Doing their bidding, for now, you quickly get to test out your first spell, burning the halflings hiding in the wheat fields.
Letting you in, unless you prove you're not one of them knee-nutters.
Toasty and horrifying. Another fun mechanic using the environment to your advantage. You'll notice when respawning your minions upon entering a level, they maintain their weapons and armor. Minions can perish while out doing your sinister bidding. Minions with equipment will drop one of their items only, which can be reclaimed by another. A small punishment for the player losing a minion. Ahead, we deal with more halflings and rescue our first lot of captured villagers. Here, Gnarl informs you of your choice. You can cast down the villagers, which raises your corruption level and power. But what is an evil empire with no one to rule? Staying your hand leads to less power but more loot and servants for your future grand domain. The choice is yours. Evil or evil. Your minions won't auto-attack the peasants as they're considered friendlies. Only by your sinister hand will their fate be chosen. When looting, minions can also find treasure which they bring back to you.
For the master!
Such precious foul little fellas. This treasure gets added to your hoard. You'll see in the menu here you can return to the Dark Tower at any time, but all your current minions will be lost, thus losing their weapons and armor they've looted, so inadvisable most of the time. Just for a bit of malicious fun, if you decide to strike down the villagers, they will go from green to red when locked on. Your minions can now attack them. Your corruption level, which you can find in the menu here, increases with these types of heinous acts. Now, I did return to the tower to save for this footage, as the game only autosaves in levels or save on exit in the tower. Running back, the game remembered I burnt these 2 fields, but I had to take down the halflings and rescue the villagers again. Easy enough here, but later in bigger fights this could get annoying if you have to stop playing Overlord at the wrong time. Not the greatest saving system, unfortunately. The villagers do lay out a bit of lore after you rescue them. However, they only did so on my second run of saving them. The lines didn't trigger the first time I did this. Not the best considering how very little lore is given out so far.
After that halfling, Melvin Underbelly, came back from his adventures, they called him a hero.
Melvin used to be small, but he developed a vast appetite.
No, he's huge. I got too close to him once, nearly lost an arm. His henchmen stole our food and forced us to work in the fields to grow more food for Melvin.
Yes, Melvin was one of the 7 heroes that defeated your predecessor. Returning a hero, he seems to have fallen to corruption and grown in size with an unholy, ravenous hunger. Ahead we find an arcane blood pit. Again, the dark humour shining through in the writing and especially with Niall's voice acting.
Your minions will gladly die for you. They're very loyal.
Your health and mana bar can be found here, along with your current active spell. A minion sacrifice fills us up nicely and we move on. A minion spawning pit helpfully appears nearby, in case you need to restock. Ahead is the mission path, but aside is a different path. The game heavily rewards exploring, so let's have a look. Another wall unlocks a quick path back to the teleporter, and there's also a mana pit. It has the same deal as a blood pit, but restores mana. I empty my mana bar for maximum sacrificing pleasure, and each minion gives 1 full pip of the mana bar. Note for conversion rates, 1 fireball consumes 1/2 of a pip. You'll notice the game smartly chooses the weakest or least equipped minion to sacrifice for you. Strangely, you may notice your minion strength increase with the loss of one. It seems the percentage is based on the overall equipment level of your current army. Down below, the game craftily teaches you a few lessons. 1. Reinforcing the reward for exploring. 2. Brown minions do not like water. 3. They can drown. 4. Something currently unavailable to us is required to get some items, encouraging returning later. 5. You can wade through shallow water yourself but can't swim. And 6. Despite your gargantuan size and obvious power, you absolutely refuse to lift a finger. You may notice as you stomp around, the lighting changes. I tested out to see, but there isn't a day and night cycle. More, the lighting shifts with different areas. The start is sunny and bright, but shifts to a blood red as you progress. A nice little atmospheric touch. Ahead, we take out the halflings guarding the entrance to the slave camp. Strike them down for their impudence. In a nice flair of the dramatic, if you cast fireballs near certain trees, they catch fire, giving you a sense of power and embellishing your evil crusade. Some objects like this wheel simply require 1 or more minions to work. You can cruelly force one to toil away slowly or put multiple onto it. Move through the loading screen to reach the slave camp outskirts. Minion spawning pits and a dark tower teleporter appear for your convenience. Overlord does a good job of handing these out frequently. Handily, the pits dynamically store your weakest party member and retrieve the strongest available. You can return to your dark tower and head down. The tower heart gives you some basic stats on your minions, how many you've spawned total versus how many you've lost, and again your corruption level. The teleporter allows you to head back to main areas unlocked and the last one you came from. Back to the slave camp we go and continue our tale of destruction. Some more crushed halflings and a few freed villagers later, we can now take on a troll. You can let friendlies take the brunt of the attacks, holding back and letting them rush in. Niall even encourages it. Unfortunately, the enemy AI isn't Overlord's strongest aspect. I can stand here without harassment. Plenty of enemies stand around gormlessly waiting for you to attack, despite being in full view. This mini-boss is relatively easy. There's no difficulty settings in Overlord, and you won't really be challenged yet, provided you let the minions do most of the work. Which is kind of the point. With the villagers freed and by my grace allowed to live, they kindly offer us our own crane back. The minions haul it back to the nearby convenient portal, and we can now visit the village of Spree. You can head back to the Dark Tower now to see the rebuilding in progress. Unsurprisingly, health and safety seems to be all but forgotten when rebuilding a Tower of Evil. The dungeon has also been unlocked. The dungeon has the ability to recreate any enemy you've previously vanquished. Fighting them's a little tougher as they're in bigger waves, and your mana isn't replenished when returning to the Dark Tower. You get a tick here to let you know you've defeated that foe. The dungeon's just a nice little extra thing for you to do. But enough maiming. To the village of Spree we go for more maiming. Upon entering, you're told by the mayor the halflings stole all their food. He asks for you to retrieve it, implying it will be lucrative for you to do so. Spree is a small hub for this area. You can of course simply slaughter the townsfolk, gaining corruption, or walk around and loot the area. At first the villagers are happy, cheerful, and glad to see you. If you loot a few buildings, however, they start to gripe, so be careful about going too far. It's a great atmospheric touch, having the world react to the player and your actions. Due to a deep-seated lust for hero worship, I reloaded and just slightly looted the village this time, leaving the houses untouched. Walking to the north or west gate, we get a cutscene chat with locals about the area. The north gate leads to Spree Castle. A local reports demons attacked. A mysterious lady told them to flee. The west is the remaining farmland. Reportedly, halfling patrols have been seen. In a fine case of video game logic, we get the quest to retrieve the first tower smelter despite it never being mentioned at the west gate. The east gate is for the already mentioned food quest. There's no interact button done with NPCs. They simply say things when you get close enough. And of course, because it's the early noughties and standard practice at this point, all the women are incredibly busty and horny for you. To be fair, compared to the local yokels, you are a monolith of a man with armor that looks as pricey as it would be noisy. Before leaving, I do want to say I quite like the design of this village. Its atmosphere is quaint. I'm very charmed by the aesthetics of Overlord in general, and Spree has a great fantasy feel. Despite limited resources, it feels full of life and lived in. Now, curious about the Smelter, I head through the west gate first. A group of locals nearby are complaining about the roots growing uncontrollably from the Elven Forest, and we gain another quest to seek out the entrance to the Elven Forest. Following the path of fire, we find the Smelter, but unfortunately it's wreathed in flame. Gnarl lets us know we need red minions to soak up the flames. Heading down the path to the Elven Forest, we come across more flames, again requiring the reds. So for now, the west area of Spree is actually uncompletable. I return to seek out the villagers' food to the east. The Halflings ahead fall quickly, and hidden around the side is a new domination spell statue. Returning it, we gain the spell Slow. Sadly, the menu options are extremely limited in-game. You cannot change graphics or controls. You need to launch the configure menu when launching in Steam. To my dismay, there's no quick cast spell option. You need to select each spell with F1 to F12, then cast the spell with the E button. But now I know how to select the new spell. Of course, because there's no save state option, we start back at the tower and need to return to the village. Defeating these halflings again, we move on. We get a top-down view of a party. The very large Melvin can be seen in the distance. Heading down the road, we come across another troll. The slow spell helps limit its damage output. This time I do get rather damaged with this many enemies attacking. You also have the chance to loot the halfling homes. Treasure, minion loot and potions can be collected by your good little guys. The potions restore a very small amount of health or mana. Your minions can also loot food and drink. There doesn't seem to be much benefit other than the joy of watching your little scamps gleefully eat and drink. Just a fun little extra. The drunk minions lose their aura once they, relieve themselves. The way to the party is barred for now, but a domicile ahead has a large enough door to accommodate our impressive stature. Loot the chests nearby. We haven't figured out what the gold is actually used for yet, but loot is loot. Now we head inside. We enter into another aesthetically pleasing place to explore, if illogically large. A massive hobbit home filled with loot, destructible furniture, and yes, more halflings. Your path of conquest leads you through many homely feeling rooms, all backed by a chipper tune. Stomp your way through and you'll find a nice large bag of treasure your minions can carry back. A new mechanic is introduced with these halfling holes. They spawn enemies until minions clamber inside to destroy them. The light goes out and smoke billows out to let you know it's done. We come across a very large pumpkin, Gnarl gleefully encouraging us to destroy it. Inside is another totem. The totem increases your minion capacity to 15, which is lovely. You don't have to escort each object back to the portal either. You can continue your malicious fun while they do the heavy work. There's a wheel ahead, but it's actually missing two parts. Somehow this makes it unusable. Broken wheels like this are color-coded red to let you know. You find both missing spokes on the side path. The second is in an area only accessible to your minions. You need to sweep them through, destroy the hobbit holes, and retrieve the spoke. I found with extended use of the sweeping mechanic, the camera starts to get a little ungainly at times, requiring you to reset it to start the sweep again. The mechanic definitely has its limits. With the last spoke returned, we continue to the next level, Halfling Homes 2. You're confronted with an overwhelming force. Gnarl suggests not alarming them all at once. You can achieve this by taking out the side areas first. We get a new mechanic in these bouncing pots. They contain hostile rats. The enemy of my enemy is, well, still my enemy, but you can stand back and watch them thin out the halflings first. Take out both sides and the center is clear for an attack. During the melee, I did accidentally fireball a friendly peasant. Sadly, the lock-on doesn't prioritize enemies, it simply locks onto the closest target, friend or foe. So, gaining 3% corruption, I move on. Ahead is an ominous red-tinted area. The campy tone definitely taking a turn. New enemies lie within, with the form of these larger halflings. In the previous level, you were informed by rescued peasants that they were to be served at the next feast. It seems we have found the corrupted cooks willing to commit such an act. Again, some rats are conveniently placed to help you in the fight. Defeating these tougher enemies finishes this area. We find the stolen pallet of food in the next room. You're given the option to either hand over the food to the peasants or keep the food to increase your life force. However, the witnesses would need to disappear. here. Being a good boy evil overlord, I return the food. A well-fed corrupt empire is a happy one after all. You can now return to the tower. In a nice visual and verbal reminder to the player of your progress, the new totem adorns your throne room and the Jester will dynamically proclaim your deeds. A fun extra touch to help you revel in your advancements. Returning, a cutscene lets you know the gate to Melvin is open. Entering Spree, you're simply thanked by the mayor if you approach him, but no reward is given. You can now head back to face Melvin. Wouldn't want to miss the party now, would we? Melvin, despite his pace, flees as his minstrel lays down some sick tunes the minions simply cannot resist. Taking out the minstrel frees your minions and the battle wages. The halflings also attack their peasant servers for some reason, but you can save some if you're fast. Despite their peril, I do think the peasants are overreacting just a little bit. A culmination of new mechanics takes place here. Halfling homes spawn out enemies and a wheel requires 2 spokes. Near one spoke is an object wreathed in flames. Unable to access it for now, just make a mental note to return. With both spokes in place, we can head inside to Melvin's kitchen. We are greeted with the fiery machinations of Melvin. We also finally see our first red minions, being used to stoke the fires for Melvin's cooks. We let them out and watch as the cooks are cooked.
Roasted in his own kitchen.
You can tell in cutscenes like this the audio isn't always balanced properly, especially with voices in Overlord. But honestly, it's a pretty common error to come across in games like this from the mid-noughties. Plenty more loot is to be had, but eventually we must face Melvin. You're finally confronted with the grotesque visage of Melvin, his bulging eyes, distorted form, and messily stained clothing. A showcase of his deadly sin, gluttony. Yes, Melvin Underbelly, formerly Melvin the Small, king of the halflings, is twisted with his gluttonous ways. After defeating the second Overlord, your predecessor. As you might have guessed, like Melvin, the 7 heroes have each succumbed to one of the 7 deadly sins. Melvin hits hard much like a troll, striking down several minions easily. You need to avoid him when he's rolling around, knocking over anything in his path. After whittling down his health bar, Melvin falls over, leaving himself open to a final strike from you.
That is concentrated evil, sire.
Blah, my mouth was open and everything. Ugh. With Melvin defeated, we can claim our fiery minion buddies. Red minions are ranged attackers but are weaker. They can't pick up melee weapons but will still don armor. Now the red minion tutorial begins. Firstly, using them to remove this flaming barrier. Fire beetles like this drop red life essence, which adds minions exclusively to your red summoning pit. Here is the red minion hive. It needs to be returned to our tower. Able to walk through the inferno below, send your reds to collect and carry their hive. Along the path, we need to set up some reds to deal with the endlessly spawning cooks so others can move the wheel down below. You can switch between minions with the 1 to 4 button or scroll wheel. Tilde or middle mouse button press selects all. You can leave minions in a place with a flag. Press Q to drop it. This lets the reds stay put and rain down fire. Now, with the knowledge on how to use multiple minion types, we take the red's hive back to the tower. I do quite like how this minion drops the hive on his toe when depositing it. Now, once again, we go back to Spree. Upon returning, we're greeted by a peasant. She informs you with Melvin gone, the sheep are flourishing. We're free to take as many as we'd like. This nicely informs us we can easily return here to restock our brown minion life essence and that the action is corruption free. Speaking of corruption, my level has decreased since the unfortunate fireball peasant incident. Good deeds lower your corruption level. With the reds in tow, I head back to Melvin's area to grab that item. It turns out to be a delicious treasure bag. It takes quite a while for them to lug the bag back, so be prepared for a long walk. Next, we go and grab the first smelter for our tower. This time an escort is necessary as those patrols of halflings we heard about attack. Some objects can have more than the minimum required to help carry it. In this case 10 minimum, but 12 moves it faster. Return to the tower and we've unlocked the forge. Giblet, our adorable little worker here, is now in charge of the smithy. From here you can craft and upgrade weapons and armor. We just have access to steel at the moment until we get another smelter. The sword is faster but weaker, axe happy medium, mace stronger but slower. We're currently wielding the steel armor and helmet already, so it's just upgrades for those two at the moment. Sacrificing minions is how you upgrade your gear. Deciding I want a max level mace, I head out for some sinister collection of life essence. Ah, look at the little scamps go. They're having fun. In an obvious sign of understanding their own game, the developers saw fit to put this portal here in this life essence farming area. When done, you can return your minions and menu teleport back to your tower, negating the cost of losing all your minions when teleporting back. With enough to max out the mace, I contribute 175 minions to its forging. The good little boys gleefully jump in. I tried out just adding 10 minions to my armor upgrade. It added a smidge to the bar, bar, but no bonus yet. Obviously, more is required. Satisfied with my mace, it's time to investigate Spree Castle. We arrive to see it burning. Flame blocks our path, so reds are required to progress in this area as well. Niall comments the scent of magic is in the air. New enemies in the form of black and steel-clad humans are now fought. You make your way into the courtyard, fighting a good chunk of these new enemies. I definitely noticed here when wading in myself just how basic combat is. It's definitely one of Overlord's weaker points. Simply swing and cast magic, no block or dodge. The gameplay definitely pushes you into letting your minions do most of the fighting. Around the side of the castle is our first personal upgrade. This red totem gives us an extra health bar pip. We now have 4. Now head on inside to the dungeons of Castle Spree to investigate this mystery. Inside we get more fire blocked paths, a very strong theme in this level. Remove it to make way for the next cutscene in all its 2006 janky glory.
My lady, please hurry. They're coming.
Stay back. These people are no threat to you, okay? Let's just run! Quick, the storeroom!
That was horrible.
Unless you want the horrible following us in here, I suggest you shut the door.
The mysterious woman, Rose, and some peasants are fleeing the raiders. She was helping out peasants not infected by a plague when the castle was attacked. Rose has a quirky mix of kindness and opulence. She finds the minions adorable, though who can blame her, but demands you get her luggage for her. Rose warns of a magical creature helping out the enemy. The areas ahead are perpetually blocked by flaming debris, with a few spots to utilize your newfound range attackers. Once again, I feel the need to point out just how dumb the enemy AI is, standing and just letting themselves be burnt like this. Heading back now the path is unlocked, you can talk to Rose again if you'd like. Once again, a curious personality.
If that plague gets out of Heaven's Peak, then things will get very disorganized. And I hate that.
It's time for another boss fight. Ahead is a beholder-type monster. It's allowing the raiders entry and must be defeated. You need to set up reds on both platforms, leaving it nowhere to hide. Then defend the reds as they whittle down its health. A neat idea, but perhaps a little more dramatic on paper than in reality. It kind of just sits there and takes the damage. Once defeated, you can return Rose's ludicrous amount of luggage to her. Returning with her to your tower, the repairs have been completed. Rose has been given quarters as your mistress in the Dark Tower. She swaggers off with a walk that I think is supposed to be sexy and not a sign of incontinence, asking you to meet her upstairs. Above, she gives a tour of the mostly empty rooms and her ideas for them. You can see your treasure room reflecting how much treasure you actually have. She craftily put together a model of your Dark Tower. Here you can buy aesthetic upgrades for your tower. This is what you spend your ill-gotten gains on, making the tower look cool. I have enough to buy almost everything. After your purchases, you can see the treasure room reflect your shortage of coin. Rose also set up her own bedroom. Now, with our tower upgraded, you can venture forth, back into the world of Overlord. There are 6 more heroes to take down, spreading your reign of terror across this land. More minions are yet to be discovered and new areas await. More upgrades can be had and your story continues to unfold, learning how you came to be the new Overlord and how the 7 heroes you once traveled with betrayed you. Overlord definitely has its problems. The enemy AI and combat isn't the most exciting, and the animations are pretty bad most of the time. It definitely has the feeling of a game trying its best with a limited budget. Where Overlord shines is the world. The quirky charm of the adorably evil minions, so loyal and gleeful in their malicious destruction, cheerfully chittering away as they follow you on your path of hellfire and destruction. The aesthetic of the world is a sublime mix of stylized fantasy, but with a story that twists tradition onto its head. The dark humor and satirical take on the traditional fantasy setting is delightful. Just hearing the minions proffer treasure to you, saying,
For you, for the master! Treasure!
It makes me smile every time. The world reacts to how you, the player, treat it and its people. You can upgrade and see well-defined results for your work. Base building is such a favorite of mine, and Overlord is limited but scratches that itch. You upgrade yourself, become more of a force to be reckoned with, along with an army of villainous loyal minions. It's by no means the greatest game in the world, but the game did well enough to get an expansion, a sequel, and several spin-offs over the years. I hope someday to return to this world as a new Overlord in the 2020s, with updated graphics and gameplay. I think it would make for a much wanted breath of fresh air in the current gaming market. Let me know in the comments if you've played Overlord, either this or the other titles. If not, do you plan on doing so now? Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to leave a like if you can. Goodbye for now.